Hi, everybody. Ren Carothers here with your Future Stars Friday forecast on a 2-year-old Tuesday, but we're going to talk about a lot more than just 2-year-olds. I have a very special guest, and to give you a clue into who it is, although you should probably see it already on the post itself, I'm going to show a very special replay, taking you all the way back to 1992 with Lure in the Breeders' Cup Mile.
This year's Breeders' Cup Mile. And they're off. Lotus Pool show speed. Lure is right there from the inside in 49er days. And there goes Luthier Enchanteur to grab a lead under the line the first time. Three of them now vying for the lead. It's Lure toward the inside now, grabs a short lead. On the outside, 49er days pressing. Luthier Enchanteur backs off. Arazi is up close, and he hugs the hedge, saving ground all the way. 4 Stars All-Star is running fifth in between horses. Paradise Creek is sixth and gaining ground on the outside. Exit to Nowhere is seventh, about 7 lengths from the lead. Thunder Region is eighth. Selkirk is ninth toward the inside. Lotus Pool is running in 10th. Then Cardoon and Bistro Garden. Brief Truce is second to last, and the trailer is Val Dubois, 15 lengths from Lure, who blazes the way up the backstretch. He got an opening quarter in 22 and 4, and a come and get me half in 45 and 4. They're a half mile out, and Lure leads the way. 49er days right there. Luthier Enchanteur on the outside. He's right there running in third. Arazi is only 2 lengths from the lead. As they enter the far turn, 4 Stars All-Star is right alongside Arazi. Then it's Paradise Creek and Selkirk, who's in behind a wall of horses. Exit to Nowhere's in cramped quarters, but they have to catch Lure as they turn for home. He spurts away from the field by 4. Luthier Enchanteur is now running second, 49er days. Arazi does not have it. Paradise Creek on the outside. Lure running a huge race this afternoon. He's in front by 4. Brief Truce is coming fast, but he's coming too late. Lure does it in front running style. He won by 3. Paradise Creek second, followed by Brief Truce. They couldn't get him. He just laid down fantastic fractions. And look at this time. He destroyed the track record. 1 minute 32 and 4/5 seconds. What an effort by Lure.
Lure would go on to win the Breeders' Cup Mile in 1993 with Mike Smith aboard. That 92 mile, the first of 26 Breeders' Cup Championship scores for Mike Smith. And of him, Lafitte Pinkai had said this when he won the Lafitte Pinkai Junior Award in 2017. He's been a model of consistency, class, and pure athletic ability. He's a star in all senses of the word, and it is an honor to honor him. Let's bring him in. Mike Smith, Hall of Fame jockey, inducted in 2003, 17 years ago, and you're still going strong. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I think my mother wrote that thing for Lafitte to say.
Well, you know what? Let's start it off with your mom. Let's take it all the way back to childhood. You were born in Roswell, New Mexico. Matt, my husband, jokes around that they called you the alien area.
Yeah, Minnesota. Me and your husband go back to the Minnesota days.
Oh, you know what? Since you brought that up, just real quick, because I couldn't let this interview go without pulling this in. Check it out. Mike Smith riding for Matt Carothers' family, champion pilot in the Minnesota Breeders' Stakes back in 1987. That mustache, and look, the guy who was holding the horse, you guys look like you could be twins.
Yeah, I see that. You know, that mustache got me into a lot of the pubs back in the day when I was underage. You know, they didn't, they didn't check my ID. If you looked old enough, they let you alone. So I left that mustache on there for quite some time.
Very smart, very smart. But yeah, so you know, going back to growing up, you were riding horses at a very early age. Tell the viewers all about just how your love affair with the equine began.
Yeah, growing up in New Mexico on a ranch, a farm, and both sides of my family were very involved in horses, period, especially race horses. And so, you know, I just grew up in the business to start with, and then, you know, I really enjoyed horses and enjoyed riding, and was involved in all the 4-H, you know, stuff that you would do as a kid with horses, but was really, and I wasn't big enough to. I was really into sports, but I wasn't big enough to really play anything else. And I was very competitive, and horse racing just kind of came natural to me. And I took it up at a young age, and by the age of 11, 12, and 13, I was already riding match races and knew that I wanted to be a jockey and was really working hard at it, and galloped horses for a few more years, and then started riding when I was 16 in New Mexico. And then it just kind of took me everywhere I've been.
Was the first horse you won aboard named Forever Man once you took your license out?
Yeah, official thoroughbred. Yeah, as the horse was named Forever Man.
How appropriate.
Yeah, I think the first horse I actually won on was a filly, a mare called I'm a Saint. I remember her as being my first one as far as an official race, but it was a quarter horse race. It wasn't.
That's appropriate too, though.
Yeah, well, thank you.
So when you were going back to that childhood ambition, when did you know you actually had the talent to take it further and to make this an actual career? Because I think I remember during the Triple Crown season you had with Justify, they had done a package on you, and you had talked about, or maybe it was your mother, you just didn't have interest in school. You already knew what you wanted to do. You had a gift, you knew you had a gift, and you wanted to pursue that.
Yeah, I mean, I love, horses so much, and I always did well in school. I never did spectacular, but I did well, and there was nothing that at the time, thinking this, of course, you're just a kid, but there was nothing that I thought that I wanted to be as far as school went. I wanted to be a jockey, and as far as I knew back then, you didn't have to go to school. And I was doing really well. I was working pretty hard at it at a young age, so I was making really good money back then for back then at such a young age, and I was putting it away and saving it so that when I did get old enough, I could hit the road and travel and try and make a career out of this. And so I already had it all planned out, and I was lucky that I had family members that had been in the business before. My father even actually rode for a little while, so I knew what it was going to take, to try and give it a good shot. So I put away and saved everything I could until it was time for me to try and give it all I had and see if I was going to mature and get better at it. And I loved it so much, and I don't know if I was really good at it or not, but I loved it so much. It wasn't nothing like work, and I was making a pretty good living at it. So it was fun to do. It's been fun to do to this day, to be honest with you.
Well, you have ridden over 30. You've ridden 33,712 races based upon what Equifax says. I don't know if that's including internationally or not right here. But earnings of over $332 million. Again, 26 Breeders' Cup scores. You are the most successful jockey in Breeders' Cup history. You've had 145 starters in there also, and some of the most luminous names that we've seen in racing. We'll get to them more in just a minute. But taking it back to the very first Breeders' Cup win that you had in '92 with Lure, obviously we always hear these questions after a race. What did it feel like? It felt amazing. But did this win in '92 give you a sense of crossing sort of a threshold into superstardom as a jockey?
Well, it certainly put me on that big day level with the other riders. I was an up and coming rider. I was kind of a rookie, so to say, although I wasn't an apprentice, but I had been around a little bit, but I hadn't really, broken through that, into that big race name kind of name. That was still, across all the top jocks that were back then. There were so many unbelievable riders. I couldn't honestly name them all. I think if I started, there'd be at least 15 of them in the Hall of Fame already. That's how many great riders were riding back then. But yeah, it put me. He was the first horse to really put me on that level with those type of riders, and you'll never forget that first one. And to this day, just getting the opportunity to watch that replay just now, I got goosebumps all over again. I get more nervous now actually watching it than I actually probably was at the time riding it. I was just so excited that I was riding a horse, and especially a horse like Lure. He truly was one of the greatest horses I've ever ridden, and probably the best miler by far that I've ever ridden.
Wow. Well, you've ridden some amazing horses. So again, '92, '93, Lure in the Breeders' Cup Mile. '94, you won the Breeders' Cup Sprint with Cherokee Run. In '94, you also won the Turf with Tikkanen. And then in '95, you rode a horse in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. We're going to watch the stretch right now. Also would go on to be a very important sire. I am talking about Unbridled Song. Taking on back again to '95.
Unbridled Song taking the lead as the field turns for home. On the outside, Hennessy and those two will come down to the final furlong together. Hennessy in a full-out drive. Unbridled Song giving his all toward the rail. Farther back, Honor and Glory is now right there. And that note is fourth. Unbridled Song and Hennessy in a duel down to the line. Unbridled Song, Hennessy, here's the wire. And it is Unbridled Song who wins by a head. A hard-fought head it was over Hennessy this afternoon in the Juvenile. He usually goes right to the lead, not today. Off the pace, a brief but brilliant season for Unbridled Song.
What does it take to what does it take to get a 2-year-old like that? Not only a 2-year-old, but he was a giant 2-year-old to finish so strongly.
Well, you know what? Funny, you wouldn't normally. I mean, 99 and a half times out of 100, you wouldn't say what I'm getting ready to say. But yeah, I was so thankful that he stumbled leaving the gate, because he would have got caught up in that fast duel, because he was extremely fast for a big horse, and he was going to be very forwardly placed, if not on the lead, and everyone kind of knew he was the horse to beat, and everyone was going. So he stumbled, and it caused him to rate, and they went so quick early that I didn't have to get in his way. I just was able to put my hands down and just basically map out a place for him to run when it was time. And when I found that seam in between horses just before the quarter pole, man, he dove through there, and I knew it was pretty much over. That was a real good horse too that he beat. That was Hennessy that was on to his outside with Donna Barton on him. So he also beat a really, really good horse, and a horse that went on to be a pretty great sire as well as Unbridled Song. That horse he gave me so much, in as far as not only getting the opportunity to ride him in big races and stuff, but he helped pay my way through a whole lot of things. That horse did. Even after he retired, I was blessed. Ernie Perigallo gave me a lifetime breeding right to him, and right away it shot up to quite a bit early on. So man, every Christmas you get this little bonus check in the mail. It was pretty amazing.
Well, he also gave you Arrogate.
He also gave me Giacomo as well.
Giacomo, but Giacomo's Holy Bull, but
Holy Bull. But Arrogate, he gave me Arrogate. He gave me. There was a lot of really good horses that he threw. That some of them I got to ride a little bit, and some not a whole lot, like Liam's Map, but he ran. And there was a lot of horses that he threw, and it was funny that his breeding. He passed much too early, because if he could have just. You imagine what it would have shot up to after a horse like Liam's Map and Arrogate popped up on the scene. He would have probably shot back up to 200,000 a year at least.
It is remarkable what these horses can do, and then their progeny, and going forward, and seeing you ride a sire or a dam and then ride their offspring later. And we'll get more into that in just a bit. But from Unbridled Song, you all in that same Breeders' Cup event in the distaff, you also rode Inside Information. Inside Information, Eclipse champion, Mayor, Hall of Famer for Shug and Phipps, 14 for 17 lifetime. She had a second, 2/3. She won 5 in a row going in. Had finished second in the ballerina after stumbling out of the gate, and then she went on to string together the Ruffian, the Spinster, and the distaff to close out her career. Where does Inside Information rank among all the amazing females you've ridden?
Oh, she's up there in with the top of them. The thing is, she retired very young. I mean, I'm telling you, she was just starting to get good. There was no telling how good that mare really was. If she would have gotten the opportunity to run one more year, I mean, she might have. All goes well. I don't think there was affiliate or mare at the time in the world that could have beat her. As you saw, she won the Breeders' Cup that afternoon by the margin of 13 lengths, I believe it was, and although she didn't run as far as Seagard did that day, but I bet you she got a higher buyer that day. Her buyer had to be huge, because she did that all on her own without any encouragement. Really, for me, I was pretty much just a passenger up there on her. And like I said, she was just starting to get really good. We hated to see her head off to the breeding shed.
Yeah, I mean, it is amazing though, because like I said, she had won 5 races in a row. That ballerina stumbling out of the gate kind of put the
Well,
kibosh on that race.
she didn't just stumble. She did a belly flop
Yeah.
out of the gate. She really, and luckily she stayed up. She didn't fall, and I didn't fall off. I was about as close as falling off as you would have seen. But for her to even get up and run second in that race that day was pretty incredible.
What is it, just for those who will never have the experience you have as a jockey and being on these horses going that fast? And there are a lot of people who love horse racing who also ride horses. I ride horses. It's so different from being an actual jockey speeding along, going 30, 40 miles per hour. When the track comes up sloppy, like we saw with Unbridled Song, that Breeders' Cup, I get worried riding a horse on a muddy ground, slipping and sliding. Going that fast, what goes through your head, and to how to keep a horse better balanced so you don't have any bad foot go awry.
Well, the good thing that we're on racetracks that they're maintained and they're very well taken care of, so they're about as smooth as you could possibly get them, even though it's muddy and raining and wet. And the funny thing is, you'd be surprised how well a horse really handles the off going. And if they don't, they'll usually just climb a little bit, and they just won't, certainly give you their best effort at all. They'll let you know right away if they're liking it or not. And if they like it, it's actually fun. I think it's fun for them as well. The ones that really get over it well, they tend to, although they're very talented even on a fast track, they tend to even run a number that's even higher than they would have on a normal dry track. They seem to get over it that much better, the ones who really handle it. Inside Information was that kind of mare as well. Not only was she extremely talented and she was just really coming into herself at that time, but she had a wet tracks. I mean, she'd just skip over them like it was she was just made for them. She absolutely loved them.
Do you have a favorite surface? You obviously run on everything from dirt, turf, synthetic, between the two main tracks. Do you have a preference? Because you're good at everything, long, short, it doesn't matter.
Well, I learned, you certainly surround yourself with the best horses. And so if I'm on the best horse on the dirt, then that's the surface I like. If I'm on the best horse on the grass, well, then that's definitely the surface I like. If it's sprinting, if it's a distance race, whatever it is, when you surround yourself around the right people and the right horses, wonderful things happen to you.
Well, wonderful things happen to jockeys who also do their homework. What do you think it is that sets a truly elite jockey apart from somebody who can get on the horse and ride? But I mean, the consistency that you've had throughout your career, there's something there that sets you apart. What is that?
Well, I wish I could bottle it up and make sure that I have it every time I go out there. I think we all do our homework. I really don't think there's a big, I mean, even in every other sport, right? I mean, there's not a big difference in between them. It's just how you handle the big situation when you are the horse to beat, when you are on the favorite. How, if you're not nervous, look, people say, "Well, I ain't nervous." Well, to me, if you're not nervous, then you're not ready. You're not. But it's how you use that energy. When you learn to slow things down in your head, because the game's fast enough as it is. It's going to go a whole lot faster than you think. But when you can literally slow it down, then you learn to really take your time and you make the right decisions. And when you believe in yourself and the horse that you're on, and you get them in a happy place. Happy place means in a rhythm, a really good rhythm when a horse is breathing well. And then you can kind of forget about you and the horse at that moment and just look in front of you and just map out a place to go when it's time to go. And when you can do that and you call on them, because they've been in that really happy place and that happy rhythm, they're going to run, they're going to fire, they're going to give you all they got. And so when you're able to do that and slow things down, because especially as you well know in big situations, high pressured situations, whether that be playing the World Series tonight, whatever it is, there's something different in the air, man, on that day. It just feels different. And for people to say, well, it's just another race. It's not. Be like saying playing the Super Bowl is just playing another football game. And that's certainly not. It's just different. So you got to learn to handle that. And I've been blessed to have been at it, I guess, long enough that with experience, as you well know, in anything in life, means a whole lot.
And so does the ability to temper your fear. I've often said that to be a jockey, you have to be a little bit crazy to be in that position you're in, going that fast on a horse and not be scared, because a horse will pick up on that. They're fight or flight animals.
The more zeros that are behind that purse, the less scared you get. Just
So true. Okay, that's true. You got the incentive there, right?
it's not like you're doing it for fun. You know, you're also blessed to make if you're blessed to make a great living at it if all goes well. So that certainly encourages you a bit as well.
Well, it definitely does. And the fortitude that you have also, and the perseverance, because you did have a terrible accident that some people might say, okay, you know what, I'm done, I'm going to walk away. In 1998, you actually had won the Travers Award, Coronado's Quest, and just a couple days later, you had just an awful, awful spill in a grass race, which I believe you broke 2 vertebrae, and you were in a body cast.
Yeah, broke quite a few things. I think the 2 vertebrae were the most important thing, so that's all you kind of heard of. But I broke several ribs, both my heels,
Oh,
quite a few other little things that broke. But we kind of forgot about those because at the time it was my back that was the most important. So that's all you kind of heard about it. But that was a good one. That was probably my worst spill ever. Well, it was my worst spill ever, and hopefully I'll never have nothing like that again. But I'd be lying if I said that you thought you made you think when you get hurt that bad. But as time goes on, the love for the sport and the love for a horse is just so much stronger than the worry or the fear, and so it trumps it beats it, and next thing you know, you're starting to heal and you're feeling good. And luckily for me at the time, I was really into physical fitness. That's when I just started really getting into working out a couple of years before that. So I was probably in the best shape I ever been in my life, which helped me come back, quicker than I actually probably even should have mentally. And my muscles weren't quite ready. I mean, I was fit enough to, and I was strong enough to, but when you break your back, it takes time. I probably should have took a whole solid year off, but I think I was back in like 6 months. That's how back I made it. That's how quick I made it back.
there was a quote, I believe, that had been taken from you while you were in the hospital, saying about how you wanted to come back as strong, if not stronger. I would say that you lived up to your words, that you had a plan and you executed it.
Well, again, that's just comes from just loving the sport that much. I truly believe that, not wanting to not wanting to compete, or not wanting, having to not be able to compete anymore. I mean, I wanted to come back so bad and come back every bit as good as I was at the time, and if not, maybe even better. So I really got to working out quite a bit, even during the time that I was hurt. I'd go to physical therapy twice a day. I'd take these spin classes because that's all I could do all day long, and just do that. So as far as fitness, I was really, really fit coming back, and then getting getting the opportunity to be in this sport for as long as I have. The longer you're in it, I mean, you'll never master it. It's like golf or anything else. You're never gonna figure it out 100%. But it's just so fun trying, and
Yeah.
I'm still at a point right now where I'm just blessed to be riding some good horses. I don't ride near as many as I used to, but I still get the opportunity to ride some really, really good horses, and I'm still having just as much fun now as I did then. It's a different kind of fun. Back then, numbers meant everything, and you wanted to be leading rider, and you wanted to but right now I'm at a place where I just love to have 2 or 3 really good horses at the beginning of the year and see where they take me.
Hey, I hear you. And when you're Mike Smith, in my opinion, you have earned the right to be more discretionary with what mounts you take. And knowing that when you do have those horses, you do form those relationships with them. And I do think that there are some people who handicap races and they don't necessarily think that a jockey makes a difference with a horse. I think otherwise. I think a jockey can definitely make all the difference with a horse, especially with the horses being so empathic.
Yeah, I mean, I think they do, especially for over a period of time when you get a horse to compete at that level, or to run, when you see horses that win 3, 4, 5. I mean, it's hard to win 2 in a row. But when you can get them to do it more than 5 times, man, that's when that's when it becomes a partnership a whole lot more than maybe just that first opportunity.
Definitely.
Because I mean, honestly, sometimes some of the first, times that I've been on a horse, I seem to get a whole lot of run at them, or just because of that first time. But then you get to know them, you can get them to do that, time and time again, which is a hard thing. But to be honest with you, a good horse will put us all in the winner's circle, man. It'll put anybody and everybody in the winner's circle. A real good one does.
Well, before that year in '98, I'm going to take it back just again. The 97 Breeders' Cup, you won both the Distaff and the Classic. You won the Distaff with the Gina, and you won the Classic with Skip Away. And talking about jockeys, and sometimes the game, what happens with a horse and getting a mount. I know Shane Sellers had ridden Skip Away throughout, a good part of his career. Jerry Bailey had ridden Skip Away in the Jockey Club Gold Cup just ahead of the Breeders' Cup. They had a prior commitment and ended up riding Barons in the race. So then you were riding Skip Away. Shane, had won on Countess Diana in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, but he felt, that he was missing out on an opportunity to ride Skip Away. Again, a horse he had this relationship with, but yet he still had given you insight into the horse, and you could ride your best race. Correct?
Yeah, no, me and Shane still are to this day very, very good friends, and it was just as hard on me not watching him get the opportunity to ride that horse as it was me, getting the opportunity to ride him and winning, and having to hang out with my friend later on, and that was his big horse, So that was a tough time, but I was very thankful and very blessed that they called on me. I mean, I'm not gonna not play when they call on me, and Shane knew that, and just the way the race shaped up for me that day allowed me to use what I thought Skip Away's best assets were, and that's a high cruising speed, and he had a lot of stamina. I thought at some point in the race, if I wasn't in front, I was going to get brave early and just see if I could let him march forward and see if they could keep up with him. And I was able to do that down the backside. The two horses that were in front kind of separated from each other to get each other to relax, and I just took advantage of that big gap that was there, and I shot him through there, which was very early. And if I wouldn't have run, it would have been the worst move of all time. But if I wouldn't have won, he wound up running one of his better races that afternoon.
Well, he's just, again, one of the legends you've ridden. As I said, 98, you had your accident. But in 2002, you returned to the Breeders' Cup Winners' Circle. You had 2 wins on that event, during that event. One of them with a horse, another aptly named horse in Vindication, winning the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. But prior to that, earlier in the day, on a Hall of Famer, you won the Breeders' Cup Distaff with Azeri. We're going to watch that back. See here where she is. Distaff, share audio.
And it is still Azeri leading the way. She's run 3/4 in 1:09 and 3. Sensational fractions here for Azeri, who comes to the top of the stretch with the lead a length and a half. Haley is now asking a lot more from Imperial Gesture, but she is still second as the field turns for home. Take charge. Haley is toiling on the inside. Amiga still 6 lengths behind. Mandy's Gold Star, 1 furlong to go. Azeri still there, and she's pulling away. Azeri by 3, and now by 4. She has left Imperial Gesture reeling, and Bartamiga too much, way too late to get to the Distaff champion. Azeri, who wins by 4.5 lengths today. It was a photo between Bartamiga and Imperial Gesture. The final time was 1:48 and 3.
All right, so we saw her trainer at the time, Laura De Soreau. I believe she became only the 2nd female to train a Breeders' Cup champion and the only to train a Horse of the Year, which, how could you not name Azeri Horse of the Year in the campaign? So tell us about her.
Laura did a tremendous job with that mare. She really did, man. She got the best out of her.
So, I mean, again, you have great relationships with male horses too, but for some reason the females stand out. So inside information, and then now you've got Azeri going.
Every time I thought, I still do. Every time I think, well, man, there'll never be another one, like her. I'll never come across another one like her. Then, here comes again Azeri. Then after Azeri, well, there ain't gonna be another Azeri. Here comes a horse called Zenyatta. And after Zenyatta, you think there'll never be. And then here comes a horse Songbird. It's just, and then Midnight Bizu. She just retired, and I think there's never gonna be another one. So I'm just hoping, good Lord's willing, that one more will come to me before it's all said and done.
Well, do you know who's also a filly? Is the Arrogate Songbird baby.
You never know. Maybe the opportunity will come up. I'll get a chance to wow, that'd be something else. Talk about pressure to ride that baby.
Hey, but you can't see. There's no retirement in sight. You have to ride her, because if you don't, it does not fit with the storybook. of how we want racing to roll?
I'm certainly hoping. I'm hoping that.
Yeah, again, she's a yearling, so just hang in there. I mean, like you've got.
If she's half of her mother and father, can you imagine?
Gosh, I know. And well, we're going to talk about Songbird more in a minute. But for those of you, since we're just on the topic right now of the fact that she has an Arrogate yearling, this year she has a Tappet weanling, and then she's been checked in full for another Tappet baby for 2021. So plenty of horses for you to ride going into the going forward. So yeah, I mean, so you go as Zeri, then we got to mention Stardom Down because she won the Breeders' Juvenile Fillies in 2008, was champion 2-year-old filly. But yeah, also in that 2008 Breeders' Cup, Zenyatta won the Distaff. I mean, back then it was called the Ladies Classic, which Distaff. Okay, the Distaff. And at that point, what can you say about Zenyatta? What are the superlatives at this point? Because we've heard them all. When this mare came into your life originally, the first time you ever sat on her back, do you remember your impression? And what was it, if you do remember?
Yeah, it was before she ever ran. I was working her, and I remember getting on her, and John told me, he goes, "We've been doing really well. She's covers so much ground. She's definitely going to want to run around 2 turns. She's going to be a mare that goes long." But we'll see. So I remember working her the first time and thinking, God, she's a big, just starting to kind of come in, starting to look. I mean, she just got prettier as she got older, but she was just big and powerful. Again, I would have never dreamed that she could have broke her maiden going 3/4 of a mile first time out. And I went out of town actually to ride a filly called Tessa Blue in a Group 1 in Kentucky on Thanksgiving Day because John said, "Well, I'm going to run this mare Zenyatta that day in this sprint." He goes, "Yeah, but go ahead." He goes, "We're going to need this race." And I remember after finishing riding over there, I didn't win, and I was sitting at the hotel, not in the lobby, but in the restaurant little bar area, and got my little Thanksgiving dinner, little plate that they made there, and watching, I believe it's TVG on TV, and Zenyatta was back there way back, and David was on the Flores, and just to see that move that she made going short and how she won, it was just like I fell out of my chair. I said, I got to get her back. I don't know how, but I'm going to work hard at getting her back. And it took a couple more races, but we finally got her back.
What is there a horse out there that you did lose the mount on that you had originally had tabbed to be their rider, and that you kind of regret not keeping your hat in the ring?
Oh, I think every rider has stories like that. To be honest with you, we've all either passed up on something or got passed over for it, and wished that we would have rode it. There's several Derby horses I could have ridden that I chose a different horse in, and they jumped out, to beat me or win, and then I didn't even ride them for whatever reason, But yeah, there's quite a few stories like that. But going back to Zenyatta, she'll probably go down as the all-time female, at least if not mentioned in the top 5 of all-time racehorses. She was just incredible.
Is she your favorite? I'm going to put it right to you. Is she your favorite horse that you've ever ridden?
They're all my favorites. It's like asking your kids, but she was just different. She was special. Everything about her. The thing about her is, you hear stories about other horses and how great they were, but she was one that unless you actually saw it, because it was more than just the race. And it certainly wasn't by the margin of victory that she'd win by, because a lot of times it wouldn't be very far, but it was just the way she would do it and how easy she would do it and all the racing antics that she had before the race. I mean, she was just like an entertainer before and after. I mean, she would win Entertainer of the Year every year that she ran. She would get that trophy without a doubt, because she put a show on. It was worth watching.
Oh yeah, when she would come out doing that Spanish step, which is a total dressage move, by the way. And here she is. She's like this 17.5-hand dinosaur. But just watching her close, and she was a horse that could close, even if the pace wasn't hot up front.
Yeah, it was actually better for her when it wasn't, because then she wouldn't even have much to make up, and no one could out sprint her home, because her stride was just humongous. I mean, they literally had to stride twice to her one. Yeah. So if you waited on her, you made a huge mistake. Your best chance to beat her back then, and of course I didn't want to tell anybody back then, was just at some point you get away with an early, maybe first quarter fraction, but then you wanted to really, really open up somewhere early in the race, kind of like I did with Skip Away that day in the Classic. And if you could do that, you might be running on fumes at the very end, but maybe I wouldn't catch you if it was short enough.
Oh.
But everybody would thought, well, she's so far back, we'll just slow this race way down. We'll go so slow. We're going to finish so strong, she won't be able to catch us. And it would be the opposite. She'd actually beat you easier.
Well, she made history in 2009, becoming the first female to ever win the Breeders' Cup Classic. And she also became the first horse to win 2 different divisions of a Breeders' Cup race. And I remember ahead of the Classic that year, John McCreer, God rest his soul,
Yeah.
fun guy, but I remember him like, oh, the Zenyatta, and I was sitting there watching the coverage, angry that this guy was, just discounting her chances. And I remember, we're going to show the replay. I remember after she won, I was sitting there feeling so vindicated.
I think we all did. I mean, even him afterwards, he couldn't believe it. He was like, boy, she made a believer out of me. I mean, she made me eat my words. I mean, he said it all afterwards. But that really was a truly special breeder. They're all very special. But that one, man, again, I tell people that's the day the ground shook in California and there wasn't an earthquake. That's because she had so many fans, just cheering her on. And the ground was literally shaking. The grandstand was jumping up and down so much, even coming back after the race. I think they gave her like a good 10 to 15 minute standing ovation the whole time.
Well, let's take a look back at that earth-shaking performance there in the 2009 Breeders' Cup Classic, in which you and Zenyatta made history.
Right there, Summerbird at the rail, twice over is next, then Awesome Jen, Gio Ponti's behind that, then Richard's Kid, and now here's Zenyatta, and let's see, Zenyatta has a lot of ground to make up. Zenyatta, if she wins this, she'll be a super horse. She's starting to pick them off though. Zenyatta gonna hook to the outside, meanwhile it's Colonel John, Summerbird in the red, and Zenyatta's coming to the outside, Zenyatta coming flying on the grandstand side, Gio Ponti on the inside, Summerbird is right there. This is unbelievable! Zenyatta, what a performance! One will never forget. Looked impossible, but it is Zenyatta, still unbeaten under Mike Smith. Gio Ponti second, Summerbird, and then Richard's Kid. What a dramatic performance! One of the most sensational ever. Zenyatta wins the Breeders' Cup Classic.
And that's not hyperbole. I think he could have even gone further. Trevor could have even gone further with that, about how special that performance was. And that was a really deep field, too, that she beat.
It really was. And regardless of who would have ridden her that day, that would probably still be one of my favorite Breeders' Cups of all time to watch. It's just, for some reason, she was, it wasn't as I felt like I was a fan myself. Even riding her, I was just in awe of her. And I find myself just cheering for her, not even riding. I couldn't believe she would be able to do the things she did. She was incredible.
I'm just curious too, because also, being a petty geek, Ron Turcotte had once said that Secretariat, as a machine as he was, in his races, he was probably 10 to 15 lengths better on turf. Do you think she would have been similar to that?
She's certainly bred for it once she, and she got over anything. Rather, it was a synthetic dirt, the different dirt tracks, different synthetic tracks. She got over them all. I wouldn't see why she wouldn't have gone on to be a really good grass mare. She was bred really on both sides to be a really good grass mare. She probably would have been a beast on the grass as well. Who knows? Could have even been better.
It's scary to think about. Speaking of service, the one time where she did look a little awkward was, of course, in that last race. So she went 19 for 20. She goes into the Breeders' Cup Classic, poised to become only the second horse to win the Classic twice. Tis now being the only horse to have done it. And when she came out of the gate, I remember a quote from you saying you weren't sure if she was handling the track and if something was maybe amiss.
Yeah, I don't know if she pulled something in behind that day, which I think she did afterwards. She was, just a little tender in behind. Of course, she never ran again, so we don't ever really know. But something just went wrong early on. and I even warmed her up quite a bit that day because it was a cool night, and I certainly didn't want to. I didn't want to be that far back as far as he normally would be. This was another, extremely strong group of colts that she was going to run against, one of the strongest. And so I wanted to try and be, somewhat closer. Wasn't going to completely change her running style by no means. Couldn't do that, but I mean, I wanted to be a little closer. And she left there awkward and behind, and for a good couple of 100 yards, it took her to finally get lined up and get moving forward. But there was a little moment there where I thought, man, if she doesn't line up pretty soon here, I'm just going to pull her out of the race. Something must be wrong. And then all of a sudden she did, and she kind of jumped into the bridle and took me forward, and everything felt okay. But man, at that point, I thought to myself, we got absolutely no chance from here. But I thought, again, the second thing went through my mind, if anyone can pull it off, she'd be the only one that could do it. So let's see what happens. So I try to creep into it, little by little, and not try to make up too much too quick, and yet not do enough to try and catch up somewhat, so it was and I still, to this day, I mean, it took a great horse like Blame, who was an amazing horse, and who really on that racetrack was unbeatable. Matter of fact, I don't think he ever did get beat on that track. I think he was like 5 for 5 at Churchill Downs, maybe even 6 for 6 or something like that. He was just unbeatable on that track. And it took probably his best effort of all time, and he was able to pull it off. But I think in defeat, she showed how great she truly was.
Well, there are many people who say that was her greatest performance ever. The fact that she got so close to overcoming that start was almost it was almost miraculous in a way. It is something that's quite interesting too, that your first Breeders' Cup victory came aboard Lure for Claiborne, and your Blame. And you had to kind of feel bad because I will say this. I will say this. Apart from the obvious thing, devastating things that can happen in racing, probably one of the most heartrending moments I've seen in horse racing was you commenting afterward at the press conference, and just in tears. I don't know that I've ever seen something so moving in terms of a jockey just putting the onus of a loss so heavily on his own shoulders.
Well, we also knew, you got to remember too now. So she's undefeated. So that's, and you're back in the Classic. It's going to be the last time she runs. And I think the knowing that it was going to be her last time, the emotions, just kind of came over me, and I wasn't going to blame her.
No,
by no means. I would never do that.
I felt bad for Blame and the connections though, because everybody was, it's so easy for her to make history again. And here he did it.
So sad, so undeserving for him, because he ran a tremendous race, and you couldn't, man, the best owners, and they're wonderful, man. Between Dale Hancock and Adele Schneider and the whole group, they're wonderful, wonderful people. So you didn't want to see that part about it. And honestly, that was the only kind of good thing that came out of that night, was that they were blessed to have won it, and they're very close to me. That those connections are.
Yeah, and I said this before on this show when Blame had come up. Garrett Gomez was actually riding injured himself, if I recall, in the race. I don't remember, however, if it was his wrist or collarbone. Do you have any recollection of that?
I think he had a wrist that was coming off of being broke. So it was still pretty tender on him. He probably, if it was a normal day of racing, he probably wouldn't have raced that day. But of course, Gary was God rest his soul, man. He was just, not only was a brilliant jockey, but he was all around tough, man. He was about as tough as they made him.
Definitely. Now we have to ask, since you were actually on the horse, because there are people who, to this day, are convinced she got her head right in front of him past the wire.
I don't know if I ever got in front of him. I got to him. But man, he dug in, and at the wire, I knew I didn't win, so I really didn't even pay attention after that. I was just
I know,
believe that I'd gotten beaten. Was of course very upset, and I kind of got stopped a little bit at the quarter pole. I was making a brilliant move to split horses. At that point, I didn't feel like I could lose the ground. Ren, I didn't want to go 10 wide. I've already spotted them 20 lengths. I certainly don't want to go 10 wide. I need to cut a corner, all I could cut. And I was actually getting through there about as smooth as you could get through. And then two horses came together as I was getting through, and they slowed me down just enough. And I remember thinking, oh, that cost me. But she got out of there and through there and jumped forward. But then I wasn't able to have that extra strength to pass him. It had already been taken out of her,
Gosh. Well, we actually have a question here from Matt Carothers. Did Mike want to face Rachel?
Oh, man. Yeah.
I'm sure you've been asked that question before.
Yeah, no, I really did. And believe me, I have the utmost respect for Rachel Alexander. I think she's just amazing. She was brilliant. But yeah, I would have loved to. There was supposed to be a race. I think it was at Oaklawn Park that they were putting together. I believe it was going 1.8 miles that they were going to put together, and they were going to up the purse an extra $1 million. And we were actually all heading for it. We were actually going to go to it, but Rachel had a setback. Something happened in her trainer or something, and the day she couldn't make it. But yeah, I was hoping to have that matchup. I mean, that's what sports is all about, man. That's what racing all about. I mean, you both want them to go down undefeated and to never win, but when you're blessed to have two freaks of nature, so to say, at the same year, man, you want to see them compete. That's just part of it. And as long as they're happy and healthy and able to do so, you certainly would like to see that. You like to see that happen. So I certainly, as a fan, wanted to see it happen. And of course, as a rider, well, that's a no-brainer. Of course, I wanted it to happen. I would have ran her against anybody on any surface at any time. Of course, the distance would always be a question. The further, the better, probably for me. But what a lot of people don't realize is she's able to make up ground so easy and so quick that she could probably have gone back to a sprint every now and then and still won.
That's incredible. And there are a lot of people who were talking about the synthetic era, but she ran great on dirt.
She was actually probably better on dirt than synthetic. Matter of fact, she didn't even like to train on the synthetic. John will tell you sometimes the synthetic doesn't have a whole lot of slide to it. She was so big and powerful, and uphill it would kind of jar her up sometimes, and she wouldn't care for the synthetic as much. She only ran over because that's what you put her on, but she'd run over anything.
See, that's the type of insight that for all those people who synthetic special, the fact that she was winning despite not liking the surface.
Oh, just watch her Oaklawn races. I mean, she beat
Apple Blossom.
Oh, the first time she ran over there, I forget, it was Ginger Punch, and I forget the other mare that was in there, Hysterical Heat or something. I forget the ones that were in there, but there were some very, very talented mares, and she beat them by like 6 or 7 on the dirt, just playing. I mean, she literally just loped around there.
You've ridden a lot of horses that have put together impressive winning streaks. Do you think once a streak does happen that sometimes the connections get their hands tied by it?
What do you mean by that? I don't understand.
That they don't want the streak to end, so in a lot of cases maybe not take as many chances otherwise that they might. And I'm not saying that necessarily was the case with Zenyatta, but I'm just saying in general with horses with a big streak put together.
It's hard to say, but most of those streaks that you'll see, though, if you can only run against who there is to race against. Right. So most of those streaks you'll see are Group 1. So it's not like you're ducking somebody.
True. I
mean, they're the best of what we got. Rather you choose to ship around, ship here, ship there. I mean, she shipped several times. She went to Oaklawn, I think 2 or 3 times. There was really nowhere else for her to ship other than Kentucky, and she did that. She got beat the last time, but there were some circumstances there. There was nowhere else to ship when the races were right here in her backyard, and the Breeders' Cup would happen to be here as well the same year. So why would you go across the country to turn right back around and come here and race in your backyard when you have every bit of good as a prep race here as they did there? And then when you want to meet on neutral ground, she was actually going to do that, but the race didn't pan out for whatever reason. And you look at her. You look at Songbirds, you look at Azaris, you look at Inside Informations, you look at the Sky Beauties. They're Group 1 after Group 1 after Group 1 after Group 1. I mean, they just win a Group 1, Group 3 here and there. I mean, there'll be a good 6, 7, 8, 9 Group 1s in a row, which is pretty incredible.
Did you follow the career of Winx at all?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Winks was by the same side, or
Yeah,
what was it?
Sweet
Yeah,
Pie,
yeah. So I follow her quite a bit.
because there were a lot of people who would have loved to have seen Winks travel. But like you're saying, why wouldn't you stay in your home turf? People can, I mean, you've got all the group ones there that others can enter, and if they want to face you,
Yeah, I mean, we would all love to see her as fans. You'd love to see Wings come for a
yeah.
Breeders' Cup, on the grass. I mean, man, I don't see why she wouldn't have been able to do it. I think she would have been able to do it. I think she probably would have won as well. As long as she ran the same, types of race that she was running back home. You just never know when you ship a horse, because that is
Right.
something to it. Some horses just don't ship very well.
And the quarantine from there.
Scott Beauty could beat the same horses in New York, hands down. And if she shipped, she wouldn't eat. By the time the race came, I mean, you would have to ship her in right on the top of the day to get her to even halfway to perform to what she would if she got to come out of her own backyard. She just one that was very funny about stuff like that. She just, there's a whole lot to eating and drinking water, man. If you don't do it, you're not going to be able to perform. And she just didn't do it when she would leave town. So shipping's another thing, that some horses, the good ones, got to be able to do it.
Well, let's talk about another amazing female horse, because as you were saying, just when you think you've reached a pinnacle, you get another special horse. And we're going to talk about Songbird, with whom you won the 2015 Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies at Keeneland. With that victory, really put the exclamation point on the fact this was a horse to watch going forward into 2016. And just talk to us about the fact that what it's like to go from a Zenyatta to a Songbird.
Again, very, very, very blessed. Again, there's another time after Zenyatta, of course, there's no way there's going to be another Zenyatta. But if there's just anything halfway close to her, or as close to get to her as you can, and then here comes Songbird, man, who's her record speaks for itself and who she is. Everyone knows her. She had a big following as well, and she was just extremely intelligent filly and so fun to ride, so straightforward. To be honest with you, man, you would have probably won one more than I did on her. She was just fun to be around and fun to ride, and I'd like to say she was difficult. No, she was so hard to ride, but she was probably about as easy a horse to ride as there was.
Oh gosh, and she's so sweet. I got to hang out with her on the backside at Saratoga.
Yeah,
she fell asleep, legit asleep on my arm as we were just standing there in the sun together. And
she loved that. She liked that.
Oh, and she won the first 11 starts of her career, including that Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Her first taste of defeat came courtesy of Beholder in the 2016 Distaff. And again, we have people who are convinced that Songbird actually won it. If you see on social media, there are people who they don't care about the photo. They say the Songbird was on the wire.
Yeah, they if you move the wire back just an inch, she would have won, and if you'd have moved it forward an inch, she probably still would have won. But she didn't win right on that wire that day. Beholder's neck was longer.
Well,
what a race they both ran. That's kind of one of those races where even in defeat, I really didn't feel, other than not getting the opportunity to take the picture and hold the trophy, and of course get the winning purse that Beholder was blessed to have gotten. I still felt like we won. So,
well, it's amazing because if you're gonna lose by that small margin to a horse of Beholder's caliber, a four-time champion,
another truly incredible champion, and then not to mention the guy who beat me is like my brother. So
yeah, Stevens, and so we're gonna watch that. But before I do want to give another shout out to a couple of the other Breeders' Cup horses you rode on along the way in between Zenyatta and Songbird. So you won the sprint in 2011 aboard Amazombie. Drosselmeyer in the Classic of 2011. Royal Delta. She is one of only 3 horses who have ever won the Distaff twice. The other 2 being Bayakoa and Beholder. And Royal Delta, sadly, we lost her a couple of years ago. Her filly is still out there. Her one lone foal. But this was for Bill Mott and Bezzy Lou Stables. The thing about Royal Delta is she was a horse that really exuded all the class her name, you would think her name reflects. I remember seeing her at Saratoga. She was so poised and regal. Beautiful,
very regal.
but she always made me nervous a little bit. Her running style was so low to the ground when you
Yeah,
you're running, yeah. How do you have to change your own riding style when a horse is so dramatically different in how they carry themselves?
Yeah, I just try. Of course, I try to adapt to the horse. The horse really can't adapt to you. So I remember Eddie D riding AP Indy, and he resembled that same sort of running style. And I remember how Eddie would he just put his cross, and he wouldn't ever try and hold her head up. I think naturally you want to do that, but he wouldn't completely throw it away as well. He would just kind of hold them together and just go with it. He just kind of looked like he was asking him to run the whole time, and he really wasn't. He said, "No, I'm just going with it." He rates himself. He'll go when it's time, and that's kind of what I do with her. I'd get her out of the gate good, and I would just kind of stay with that. And when she would fire her A race, man, let me tell you something. She was another one that had that big stride like Zenyatta that it seemed the horses had to take 2 to her 1. And when she was happy and running that kind of race, there wasn't nobody going to beat her as well.
She was just remarkable. Another thing that was so interesting about her also is Royal Delta was right before she had debuted, is they had already sold Empire Maker. And she was his first big horse. And then
bet they're kicking themselves in the butt after that.
Oh my gosh. And then you get Pioneer of the Nile, who then goes on to sire, of course, American Pharaoh. Yeah, so Royal Delta,
a lot of good ones,
yeah, absolutely. And thankfully we have Empire Maker back here in this. Well, we did, and then he passed away earlier this year. But thankfully we did get him back for that short time anyway. But also in 2012 and in 2013, you won the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint with Misdirection. You won the marathon with London Bridge. And in that same year, 2013, Outstrip in the juvenile turf. And then 2014, Judy the Beauty in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. So that then takes us to where Songbird won in 2015. I mean, it's just, you've ridden some really remarkable horses just in that spot.
Yeah, I've been very, very blessed in the Breeders' Cup. Everyone says, and that's amazing. How'd you win 26 Breeders' Cups? I said, well, if you look at their names, how did I not win 26 Breeders' Cup races? I mean, they were incredible horses, man. They were all champions, one after the other. They really were. They all had during their time. At their distance, where they were running, there was no one in the country, not even in the world most of the time, that could beat them.
Well, Nowhere Man says Inside Information's Breeders' Cup was the greatest performance I ever personally witnessed.
Well, thank you. I tend to agree. I don't think that margin of victory has been. I think it's still the largest margin.
I think you're right.
In the Breeders' Cup, and could have been further.
Isn't that crazy?
I went along for a good hand ride, and that was pretty much it. But he was having fun playing in the mud that day.
Oh, we have a nice comment here from Classic Thoroughbreds. A documentary on this famous, lovely man. So much to teach the young men and girls. Would you ever do a documentary? You've done reality TV.
I don't know. Maybe when it's all said and done, if someone's still interested, maybe I would.
Mike, everybody's going to be interested.
I do like trying to mentor and trying to help.
Well, Drayden is a great example of that.
Yeah, Drayden just is like my little son, and I do love helping, because I remember how much it meant to me when someone helped me, and all the wonderful things, all the great riders, helped me out in my career. I learned so much from all of them, on it, stuff to do on the racetrack and off the racetrack, how to just be a good human being. They taught me a whole lot. So I certainly try to help and teach as much as I can.
Well, I told everybody we were going to watch that stretch in Songbird and Beholder duking it out in the distaff. Look, I'm going to get knocked off my seat already. So
this one in the Classic, the Zenyatta got beat. They still kind of sting, so I'm going to have to sit back here a little bit.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Well, here we go. It's a edge of your seat 2016 performance in the Longines Breeders' Cup distaff.
the lead right now. Then Landover Sea Forever Unbridled and Corona Delinka. So it's a 47 flat half for Songbird. Very easy for her as she continues her journey into the far turn with a length lead. I'm a Chatterbox continues to pursue in second. Beholder has not moved yet. Gary Stevens has not asked her to go as of yet. Now he's starting to ask just a bit. And she's to the half off of Songbird, third in the far turn. Songbird is taken on now. And here comes Beholder. A confrontation of champions as they come toward the top of the stretch. I'm a Chatterbox trying to cling to them. Stellar Wind's got work to do. Songbird and Beholder enter into the stretch. And here we go. Songbird set down. Beholder alongside. Forever Unbridled is 2.5 lengths behind them. Furlong to run. Songbird, Beholder, they are nose to nose. This race living up to its expected power as they come to the wire. They're noses apart. It's Beholder. And she got her head down on the wire. Songbird, Doug and Gabling all the way. The two of them went together. And then came Forever Unbridled. The final time was 149.20 seconds. I believe Beholder did it.
Beholder, what a performance.
Okay, so
I had to put my glasses on to see if I got beat again.
do you remember what we see you turn and say something to Gary Stevens? Do you remember what that was?
Well, he had already
Fist bumped it.
yeah, he already, what do you call it? What's the word I'm looking for? He already claimed it, so to say. He'd already given it the old fist bump. And I said, well, I remember a few times when I did that, and the guy next to me said, congratulations, and they would come back and it was his number, it was his number that got put up. So I thought I would try that. I said, congratulations, brother. He goes, man, I need that. I said, then we high-fived, and then but in my mind, in my heart, I'm thinking, now they're gonna put my number up when I come back.
Oh my God, that's so good.
When they didn't, again, it certainly hurt, man. You want to win, but man, what a race they both ran, and to get beat by a mare like her, and then to be Gary on top of all of it, kind of towards the end of his career, pretty special for him and for all of us, and I think even my connections, even in defeat, I remember Mr. Porter handling it so well, and Jerry, who we all know Jerry, he's about as competitive as they get. Even he had to take his hat off to that one, and we wanted to certainly win, but we were all very happy with the way she performed.
Well, the funny thing is, too, you hear Larry's voice. It was like he's going through puberty again. He was so excited. And when he said that this was the race, it was living up to its expected billing or its expected power, as he says in there. The only thing that could have made that better is if it had been a dead heat. You didn't want to see either of them lose.
Yeah, that would have been pretty neat. You imagine that? We probably would have took a picture together, just put them in face to face.
It's truly remarkable. It really is. So even though you just missed on that one, you came back in the Classic the very next day aboard a horse who had already set a record, winning the fastest Travers in history, a 122 buyer. And then, we're going to just talk about Fargate. This is a horse that just kind of exploded onto the scene in his 3-year-old year. First, before we show this Classic victory, riding that Travers, what was that like? Did you even have an expectation that you were going that fast? I think the final time was 1:59 and 36/100, something like that.
It wasn't that we were going that fast early or the first part of it, Ren. It was that when I did start asking him to run, and I started asking him a little bit early. It was how he just kept going faster and faster and faster and faster. That he's one of the few horses that going 1.25 miles that when I hit the wire, he was probably actually going as fast, if not faster, than any other part of the race. He was just starting to he had really incredible stamina. Covered a lot of ground, but had you could get brave with him really early in a race, and not have to worry about hitting the front too soon, because he was going to continue to pick it up as the race went on. For example, in the Dubai World Cup, when he beat the wonderful horse like Gunrunner, man, he made what a withstanding long run that he made to him, and he hit the wire. He was just hitting his best stride, and he was truly a horse that it was too bad that his last few races, finished the way they did, and they were, happened to come at Delmar, which was one track that for whatever reason he just didn't like it there. He didn't like it there before he won the Travers. He won a 3-horse race there by a nose before he went to win the Travers, and that horse never won a race again until one night at Los Alamitos. He won for claiming 8,000. So it goes to show you how much he didn't like that track over there at Del Mar. He just didn't care for that surface for whatever reason. He wouldn't even work well over it. And I wish the Breeders' Cups would have been back here at Santa Anita that year, because I think he would have went on, and finished his career undefeated.
Well, before I show that classic victory, like you said, he went on to win the Dubai World Cup. He won the inaugural, but prior to that, the inaugural running of the Pegasus World Cup. Just what he put together in a short time was remarkable. The Dubai World Cup, I remember watching it. It was early. I was at home in my bed, and I remember the start. And again, it was a scenario where he kind of got left. Did he stumble? I can't remember exactly. But I do remember that Baffert, he said he thought he was done, and just the performance to come back from what that start, he called it reminiscent of Secretariat in terms of a performance.
It really was. It was a Secretariat-like performance. In saying that, we're not trying to compare him to that, but it was that kind of performance for him to completely get annihilated and be so far back early on, and to come on and still win like that was just, I don't think there'll ever be a race like it that I've ridden in or going to get to compete in again. He was just something else. He was something special. He was incredible. He at 1.25 miles all out. I don't think I've any. Well, I haven't ever been on a horse that's gone that fast.
Well, I will say that with Arrogate and putting in such a tremendous performance, that people were excited about him. Throughout that run. This is a horse to amass, because of those giant races, over $17.5 million, or almost something like that, $17.5 million in earnings. He retired to stud, and then sadly we lost him.
Yeah.
But just the storyline that pulls through with that horse, because again, we saw earlier in the show you riding his sire, Unbridled Song, in the juvenile. Then we're going to show here in a minute you winning the classic, and we lost your video. Are you still there, Mike? There you are.
Did it come back? Yeah, sorry, someone called.
No. Oh, no worries. So you're a popular guy. But you ride the sire, you ride Arrogant in some of the most prestigious races you can. Did that endear him even more to you, to have that type of connection?
Oh yeah, no, there's always a little something more special to it when you've been blessed enough to either ridden the sire or the mare, the mother. It just kind of brings it to another little higher level. It means more as far as the meaning goes, anyway.
Oh, definitely.
But yeah, I often called him by his daddy's name.
Oh, that's sweet. That's sweet. Do they have a lot of the same characteristics? Obviously, 2 big grays.
Yeah.
But temperament-wise?
They were both pretty mean.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they didn't like you messing around with them, man. They were all business. The only time they liked you messing around with them or showing them any kind of affection or love was when you were on them. They were both very kind when you were on top of their back, but on the ground, if you didn't have a carrot or an apple, you better get out of the way.
Oh gosh. Well, let's go ahead. Another thing, just to put on a happy note for people. Yes, we lost Arrogate, but again, as I mentioned earlier in the show, there is a yearling filly out there by Arrogate out of Songbird. So, in addition to his other progeny to look forward to, because he did get some babies on the ground, we have that star-studded pedigreed filly that hopefully Mike will be riding. So let's go ahead, take a look back. 2016 Breeders' Cup Classic featuring Arrogate and California Chrome.
Coming around the turn.
And California Chrome comes roaring home with Arrogate coming after him on the outside. A furlong to run. California Chrome put to the contest. Arrowgate, full out. Can he stick with him? California Chrome. Arrowgate still coming. California Chrome. Arrowgate steals the show in the Breeders' Cup Classic. He has defeated California Chrome under Mike Smith in his 25th Breeders' Cup. Score!
A lot of buzz out here, obviously, after the win.
Yeah, there was a lot of buzz. Rolling down the stretch and catching up to a horse like California Chrome, who was such a fan favorite. Obviously, you want to win the race. Obviously, you don't want the horse who is putting you in the position that's already put in a monster effort in the Travers, a historic effort in the Travers, and now you're poised to win the Classic with him. Is there still a sense of it being a little bittersweet when you're taking down a horse like Chrome?
Well, yeah, I mean, but it makes it that much more as well of an honor to have taken down to him. I look at it more that way, and not necessarily bittersweet, but it makes me even more proud that we were able to defeat a champion like him on the biggest stage of racing in America, anyway. So it makes you even that much more prouder. And I say that with all the respect in the world and pride also as well, because you that's how good that's the kind of horse it took to beat a horse like California Chrome. It took an Arrowgate. Well,
again, we were talking about riding the sons and of horses, or sires or dams that you've ridden in the past. One of those is, this is steering off from the Breeders' Cup because we're getting close here. I don't want to monopolize too much of your time. I hear your dog in the background. I don't know if he needs a walk.
No, his friend's outside, and he wants to go see his friend. He wants to go see your friend.
What type of dog do you have?
Oh, she's a Stafford. Well, look, she's by the door looking for her friend. Look, can you see her?
Oh my gosh, how cute!
She's sad because I'm not letting her go see her friend.
What's her name?
Bella. She's named after Unique Bella.
Oh my gosh, there you go. Unbridled song. I love it. I love it. So another pair then is Holy Bull and Giacomo. Yeah. Giacomo gave you your first Derby victory, but let's talk about Holy Bull real quick before we get to that, because Holy Bull was just an amazing racehorse, and he's a Hall of Famer. And just looking at the race record, I mean, Holy Bull '94, he put together just an amazing string of races. He won the Met Mile, the Dwyer, the Haskell, the Travers, the Woodward. But in that second start of '95, in the Dawn, you had to pull him up. And a lot of people, and then he had to be retired. But a lot of people credit you with saving that horse's life because you felt something go awry off the bat. Or, as soon as you felt that, you were able to know well enough that you needed to stop.
Yeah, he'd taken just a slight off step going into the turn, and I could tell by the way he flinched when he did it that he hurt himself before it all come unraveled. So I was able to already have him a pretty good hold of him and have his head way up in my lap, and so that when it did go about 2 steps later, I had him and was able to get him stopped really quick, which of course the quicker you can get him pulled up and the safer, the less damage it's going to be done. And although it was career ending, it wasn't life ending. So. Exactly.
And as we said, he went on to be a sire, and one of those horses, again, Giacomo, who he lit up the tote board winning that Kentucky Derby. And we're actually going to look back at it, the 2005 edition, but in a unique way. We're going to take a look at the TVG behind the scenes footage, because Ken Rudolph had been touting this horse ahead of the race, and they caught him on camera with his reaction. And a lot of people have already seen this, but let's watch it with Mike Smith, because I think that makes it extra fun. And it's also extra fun to watch Matt Carothers be left hanging after trying to give Ken a high five for being right. So here we go. Let's see, we're going to share the screen and share audio.
And they're off in the Kentucky Derby. And
I never believed it when one horse see a couple horses in the mix.
It looks like a pretty clean break, right?
Yeah.
Wilco 15th, Greenies Galaxy 16th, Giacomo 17th in between horses, sorted out as 18th.
You see Giacomo, Ken? What's that? You see Giacomo, right? Yeah. He's there right there.
He's among the fastest opening half miles ever in the Kentucky Derby.
Going Wild, Flower Alley, High Fly, Bellamy Road. Yeah. High Limit in 6th.
High Fly is moving with him. Spanish Chestnut is running. A Fleet Alex is in behind them.
Oh my God, a Fleet Alex is flying.
Here comes a Fleet Alex. I think we'll be between horses.
A Fleet Alex is flying.
Look at that. Late charge on the far outside.
Giacomo, where's he at?
In the blue. He got to the finish. Closing argument, short lead. Giacomo up in there.
Giacomo! Get it!
It's a 3-horse photo finish.
Get it!
Ken. And on the wire, it's Giacomo.
What?
So it is Giacomo, the winner of the Derby, and the second biggest long shot in the 131-year history of this race.
What? What a tell you!
You did.
Yes! I have future wager at 50 to 1. I got another 25 to win. Woo! And he was touting him for weeks. Yeah. Ken Rudolph. Nice.
All right, Mike, I don't see you. I don't know if you hear me.
I see you and I hear you. For some reason, my camera is not working. I don't know why.
It's okay. You know what? You can either try coming back in if you'd like, or otherwise, I mean, I think people should see you because you are a star that should shine.
You want to redo it? I want to stop it now. I'll try and.
Why don't how about just, if you can go and click that like exit and then click that link again, and I'll wait for you right here. And while you do that, I'll just quickly talk about how funny that video was. All right. So Mike's going to try coming right back in, but I have to say, watching that video, Ken like flexing those muscles in just absolute joy over being proven correct in backing Giacomo. You can almost, I know he's fully clothed, and I'm not trying to, be objectifying or anything, but you can almost see him flexing through that suit. So in any case, it's a great video. It was a great ride, and that was Mike Smith's first win in the Kentucky Derby. And we're gonna, when he comes back in, we're gonna talk about his second win, and that, of course, being with Justify. So we're just going to hang on here and wait a second while we wait for Mike to come in. In the meantime, if any of you have questions that you want to ask Mike, go ahead and pop them up, and I may pick something. I can't do everybody, but if there's some out there that go with the flow of the conversation, there he is. There we are. Add the stream. Okay, so I was just telling people, because I thought it was so funny, when you see Ken getting all excited over being correct and he's flexing. I know he's fully clothed, but I can picture the muscles underneath. Right?
Well, it's funny. He had done an interview, or we did something together, and I told him about Giacomo. So he asked me what I thought, and I said, "I'm telling you, man, I'm coming in under the radar, sneaky good. Trust me, these California tracks don't suit this horse. These preps are better than it looks because of these fast tracks. Wait till you get back, to Kentucky, that long stretch." And so I had been really pumping him up. So he was excited about it.
Well, he was very excited again with a future wager, and then he had, I think, he said $25 to win on day of. I have a comment here from Jay Hall, who says, "Greetings from Ruidoso, Mike. You make us very proud. The Dexter Flash."
Thank you, man. I love Ruidoso, man. The fondest memories of my childhood are about Ruidoso and hanging out at the grandstand, picking up tickets, sticking them in my pocket, seeing if they were good that night. I used to do.
Oh my God.
I used to get goggles from the jockeys and play quarters when I was a little kid, because my grandparents used to love to go to the races, and they'd take me with them all the time. So I love Ruidoso.
Was there a jockey who you admired more than anyone else growing up?
I think there's been a lot of riders that mean a lot to me for different reasons. Again, me and Gary are like family. We're like brothers. But I think Pat Day in my life was probably the most influential person really as well, not just rider. He was at the time way back there in the 80s, man. He was going through a change in his life, and just to get the opportunity to watch him develop and become who he was, and for him to bring me along on the ride, it was pretty incredible.
Well, both of you guys very strong in your faith, which I have to believe plays a role in why you're so successful at what you do. Because I think when one is humble about how gifted they are, you're more prone to use that gift in a way that is with meaning and purpose.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's God given, and it's not me.
Well, I have to say, on a personal note, as someone who's a person of faith as well, my father passed away earlier this year, and I've mentioned this to you before, but on the phone when we were discussing something else a couple months ago, I think. But one of the last races that we had actually watched together that was a feature broadcast was Defy, and in the Belmont. And I just remember him watching you after you'd crossed the wire and showing thanks. And he was so impressed with that level of humbleness on such a grand stage that he just looked at me and says, "That's a great man."
Well, thank you. How great I am, I don't know, but it is, when you're so blessed like that, man. It's just so humbling to me. It just makes me want to, I don't know, hug everybody. And if you want to listen to it, I'll tell you all about it and go over it word by. I don't care who it is, where we're at. It's just when you're blessed to pull something like that off, man. I give all the glory to God.
Amen. I agree. I can't speak for anybody else, but obviously I can speak for myself, and I'm on the same page with you. When you have that level of success in life, a lot of times people can lose sight of just staying humble, and I think that's also part of the fan appeal with you, that you make the point to stop for whomever wants a picture. I've seen it in person, and I feel like you don't ever take for granted the opportunities that you have, even though you've ascended at such crazy levels of superstardom within our sport.
Well, thank you. People mean a lot to me. And you can mean a lot to people, and I've learned that, because people have meant a whole lot to me, and if they didn't have the time or at least say hi or say something, it always kind of hurt my feelings, and I don't ever want to do that to somebody else.
Well, right here, Goldilocks says every interview with Mike shows what a great person he is.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, Goldilocks. Where
Do you get recognized a lot by people who don't even follow racing on a regular? Because I mean, again, in addition to just having the superstardom that's been accrued throughout your career, you've also again done reality television with jockeys and.
It's strange. Not probably as much as your normal TV or movie kind of star would get recognized. But man, I mean, I can walk. There's so many different airports, man. I'm walking through and I hear somebody holler out "Money Mike" or something. Somebody always says something.
You get a kick out of that, by the way, because some people are like, "Oh," but
Bob gave me that. Bob gave me that nickname, and it was much better than the other nickname he used to call me before that. So I'm all for it.
What was that?
He had so many of them, and they were all kind of. I didn't like any of them until he came to Big Money Mike, and I said, you know what, I'll take that one, man.
I love it, Big Money Mike, and it makes so much sense because just again to reiterate, 26 Breeders' Cup championships, and it's the most of any jockey. But I showed that Derby win, and Johnson was your first Derby win, and only the second. You've only won the Derby twice. Consider that, everybody. Hall of Fame jockey of this caliber. It just shows how difficult it is to win that race.
It really is. It's a tough race to win. I was blessed to have gotten inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2003, and I hadn't won the Derby, and there were some riders, believe me, who deserved to be in there before me, and I was kind of a little bit feeling like I wasn't deserving of it to go in that early. there were still riders like Eddie Maple and I thought Randy Romero and guys like that who hadn't gone in yet, and they were before me, and they should have gone in before me. But and then given the opportunities that I had in the Derby, and I hadn't won it. I mean, most people don't get even half the opportunities that I got, and I'm talking about some serious horses, and wasn't able to get it one.
Oh, we lost Mike. There he is. There you are.
When we were finally able to pull it off, and then to pull it off with the son of Holy Bull, who was an overwhelming favorite in the Derby. It was supposed to be my first Derby, was his dad, Holy Bull, because there was no way in heck he could get beat. Even if I went around there backwards, I thought, and he just didn't run that day for whatever reason. And to come back and win it on my first one on a son of Holy Bull was pretty incredible.
What do you think is the biggest hurdle in the Derby? Is it that giant field? Is it the surface itself with the strength of these three-year-olds who are?
It's a bit of everything, Ren, but I'll tell you what I think most of all is that day. You're usually beat before the race is even run. I know Holy Bull was beat before the race even won. I tried to talk myself out of it in the post parade, but I knew it wasn't his day, and I absolutely knew I was going to win the Derby when I won it on Giacomo. I mean, I want to talk about confidence, man. I mean, I for just warming up the whole thing, it was just meant to be that day. If I wasn't going to win, he was going to run some race, and which he would have anyway. Even defeated would have been an incredible race, but I felt that confident on him, and I felt that confident on Justified, to be honest with you as well. But I'll tell you what, I felt that confident in Justifying the Belmont that he was going to win the Triple Crown. I was smiling from ear to ear, even in the starting gate before we even took off.
Oh my gosh!
Sometimes horses just give you that feeling that they're letting you know today's my day. And most of the time in the Derby it's just all the hoopla leading up to it. A lot of these 3-year-olds just don't handle the pressure. They're beat before the gate even opens. Therefore, you'll see them get away a little slow, and they get shut off. And then you can blame the trip, but really it starts from them being able to handle that day. And some just don't, because it's a tough day to handle.
Oh yeah, between the crowds, the press, the numbers of horses in the gate with them. I was happy to see the new gate. We'll get to that in a second. Let's talk about Justify here. Okay, so Triple Crown, only 11 horses had done it, and then Alexis American Pharaoh in 2015, ending the drought between affirmed, the last horse being affirmed 37 years prior. And then we see Justify in 2018. This campaign, 111 days, 6 races. You rode him in 5 of them. Santa Anita Derby, allowance, the Santa Anita Derby, the Kentucky Derby, Preakness, and of course the Belmont Stakes. You said that you were the most confident that going into the Belmont Stakes, you were going to come out a Triple Crown champion jockey. So how do you process the race as you're actually riding it, knowing you are on your way to victory?
Yeah, I had to tell myself to keep focusing down the backside. Hey, it's not over, man. Slap that smile off your face. It ain't over yet. But man, I just felt that confident. Honestly, warming up, I couldn't stop smiling warming up, which is really awkward, weird. Here you going for the Triple Crown. I mean, I'm supposed to be, sweating bullets here, man, or supposedly so focused and so, on. And I just was smiling the whole time. I mean, even like I said, even in the gate, I remember telling my gate man, I said, man, this part is yours. I said, I'll do my job after we leave here. So you just get me out of here, because after this, we're gone.
Wow.
And he got me out of there so good. My gate man did a tremendous job that day of getting him out, helping me get him out of there. And he got out of there running. And man, from that moment on, I was just smiling. Because we could have went around again, and he would have just been in front and stayed in front.
Well, let's watch it. Let's see you smile again, watching Justify winning the Triple Crown, becoming only the 13th horse to do it.
Outside, Bravazzo is down toward the rail. They've run a mile in 38.09 seconds. Justify is the leader, but it's just a half-length advantage here. Vino Rosso comes under a ride. Mike Smith is not asked Justify to go just yet. Justify a length lead here as they come to the top of the stretch. Vino Rosso in second. Huffberg comes on the scene, and Gronkowski has cut the corner, and they're into the stretch. And Justify comes roaring home to a run at Belmont Park with 1 furlong to run. Gronkowski and Hartford trying to run him down. Vino Rosso is fourth. A 16th to go. Justify is still there. Justify from Gronkowski. He's just perfect. And now he's just immortal. Justify is the 13th Triple Crown winner. Gronkowski was second. Hartford was third. And Vino Rosso was fourth. Justify has done it.
Okay, sorry.
business.
Do you remember what that conversation was?
He was just congratulating me, if I remember right. Everything was a blur at that point. I mean,
I'm sure.
was floating. It's been a wonderful day just getting to go back and watch some of these replays. I haven't seen these races since they've run, actually. I usually don't go back and watch them very often. You'd think I would, but they're fun to see all over again. I get all excited all over again.
That makes me excited to hear that. This is a thrill for me to sit here and watch these races with you. These are races that are in the history books forever, in perpetuity. When you see this performance, you said you were confident going in. You were going to come out a Triple Crown champion, but did you still have to let it settle in and sink in your mind that this just happened?
Yeah, even though, I just couldn't believe. I just didn't feel. What's the word? I was so humble. It felt so good. It just didn't feel deserving almost, man. It's just like, it's too good to be. It's just too good for me. It was just, I don't know. It was just.
No way. You earned that.
Yeah.
You earned that. You earned that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. But something of that magnitude is pretty special.
When you are put into that position where you are going to potentially make history that so few have done, the press crush ahead of that. I do remember Kenny Henry had said about Secretariat when he was poised to become a Triple Crown champion. He said it was like a crucible, and she wouldn't want to go through the press crush again. How do you, as a rider, stay focused when everybody wants a comment?
Man, I'd do it all over again. I want it every time, in any time. Because when you're getting that kind of press, first of all, going in, it means you're the horse to beat. And I love being the horse to beat. And then if you've been blessed enough to pull it off afterwards, man, you just want to share it with the world.
Oh, my God.
So I would love to do it all over again. The press was amazing, and all the little wonderful perks that come with it afterwards, man. I got that next night I did Fallon's show. We did all these shows. They gave me tickets to watch a private show from YouTube, man. We had a blast. I can't tell you all the wonderful places we were able to fly and people we were able to see and meet just because of a wonderful horse like Justify, man. It's amazing what a horse can do for you.
And especially when he was making history not only when the Triple Crown, but for a horse who only debuted at 3 years old, because you had heard, the Curse of Apollo.
But you got to give, man, that's Bob Baffert, man. I mean, he's not, he's not in this, and this is his second Triple Crown, and almost his fourth or something like that.
Nuts.
You don't pull stuff like that off just because you got a good horse. You're doing a tremendous job, man. And that's who he is, man. He's just a tremendous trainer, and what can you say, man? His record speaks for itself. He's just incredible.
Is there a race out there that you have not won that you feel like?
I'd like to win the Triple Crown again. I'd like to win one more Derby, if not the Triple Crown. As a kid growing up, believe it or not, I know this kind of sounds a little pompous, but I've always dreamed I was going to win 3 Derbies at least and 2 Triple Crowns.
Do it. You can do it. Why not?
I always thought that. And one race that's eluded me in my career that I would love to win before it's all said and done, and I don't know if I'll ever get a chance to, was the Arlington Million. Because back in the day, when I was young kid riding in Chicago, they didn't have Breeders' Cups, and the Million was the biggest thoroughbred race ever. And it's just something that always stays in my mind. I remember riding there and watching, the great horses win it, and thinking, man, well, I want to win the Arlington Million one day. And I've been second in it. I've only ridden it very few times, but I've been second in it. I'd like to win it before it's all said and done.
You know, I believe Mike Joyce's father was one of the gentlemen who was involved in creating the Arlington Million.
Oh, really? Wow. I have to talk to Mike about that. But yeah, that's always been a big favorite race of mine. You know, with all these wonderful races that we're blessed to have now have come around, you know, you don't hear quite as much as the Arlington Million as you used to, but believe me, back in the day, that was as big could get.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I grew up in Michigan, so I know what you're talking about. We're close neighbors to Illinois. Going back to talking about the Derby, again, we're going to get close here to letting you go. I could talk to you all day. Honor AP, let's just get this out of the way. Somebody was asking about the Breeders' Cup for you this year. As of now, you're...
Well, I mean, I've got an opportunity, one opportunity at Ren to ride. It's a nice colt, very nice colt, and I think he's got a lot of upside to him. Going into the Derby this year, I mean, into the Breeders' Cup at the Juvenile this year, he's going to be really up against it. And with all these protocols, if that's the only mount I have, I'm going to give up quite a bit just for that one day, as any rider would that's going to ride the Breeders' Cup, unless you're a rider from Kentucky. You know, you're basically giving up a whole week and then a couple of days when you get back, because you got to wait a few days, retest before you can come back. And so the protocols make it very difficult this year. If it was just your normal year where I could fly right in and right back out again, well, it wouldn't be a problem. I certainly would go for that one horse. He's actually deserving of
Is it Rombauer?
Yeah, Rombauer. He's a nice horse. And I think down the road, there's no telling grass or dirt, you know, what this colt could wind up being. But, you know, it's early on. There's some other stiff competition in there, and to go for just the one, it's going to be awful, you know, difficult for me. I think I'd just stay home. If I had, you know, Honor AP or Midnight Bijou running as well, you know, in the Breeders' Cup, well, I certainly would be there. But so the protocols make it very difficult, you know, to give up a whole week. You got to go in a whole week before, so you got to give up a whole week of riding. So, you know, that's played into it quite a bit. Otherwise, I would be there without a doubt. I'm gonna miss it, man. I know. Breeders' Cup is when I ride my final race, I want it to be in a Breeders' Cup race. You know, of course, preferably the Classic, and I like to just win it and walk away.
There you go, the storybook. If there's going to be a movie about your life, let me write the script.
You got it.
I will do it justice, I promise. But I do want to give you a moment to just, again, to talk about just how COVID has affected you this year in particular. You just mentioned Honor AP. He would have been a live force for you. A lot of people were already taking out future wagers on him in the Breeders' Cup Classic. After the Derby, he was retired. And the thing that's bittersweet about his Derby performance, I mean, you had New York kind of come out on him. I don't know if that caused any issue in terms of placement, but he ended up, if you accounted for lost ground, running the best. He had the best performance of any of the horses in the Derby.
He probably ran faster than everybody else. Yeah, I mean, it certainly didn't help him by no means. You know, when he got bothered leaving the gate, I mean, it cost me, you know, my position right away. He's the kind of big horse that you need to get moving forward really quick out of the gate and early, and I wasn't able to do that. You know, then he come up with an injury and was forced to retire. So, you know, with the two things happening, you know, we were up against it. But when I still to this day, I know when he runs his A race, we didn't even come close to seeing the best of this horse. So he should make for an incredible sire, especially with his bloodline. I certainly hope he does.
And that was a tough one for you too. I mean, we're talking about
I gave up Authentic, you know.
Authentic, yeah, you won the Haskell and Authentic. I think that puts you to 208. You had with Authentic, and then with Honor AP winning the Santa Anita Derby, that puts you at 219 Grade 1 wins, which is a record, correct?
I believe so. Yeah, it's the only one I got left.
So yeah, that had to be tough. It had to be tough knowing that the horse that you took off, ends up winning the Derby. We were talking about this earlier.
You know, he's an extremely talented horse as well. And what did he had ever done wrong going in the Derby, other than maybe not winning the Haskell quite as far as people thought he should have? But he actually ran a really, really big race that day, and their number was really high. And you know, I knowing him now, I would have rode him different, and you would have saw even a better outcome. You know, you didn't want to open up on him too early, because he get to looking around and pulling up, and it's kind of what he did in the Haskell. But I told Johnny too, especially the way the racetrack was playing. I said, man, you're going to be hard to beat, buddy. He's just so good. He's got that natural high cruising speed. He's going to put you in the race, and he's very athletic. He'll get over this Churchill track really good, and he did. And of course, he won the Derby and almost won the Preakness as well. So
well, and not to take anything away from Robbie Alvarado, who rode a perfect ride on Swiss Skydiver, beating Authentic in the Preakness. But you had ridden her in the Santa Anita Oaks and won. If it had not been for COVID, there's a good possibility we would have seen you on her in the Preakness.
Yeah, I would have been honored if I could have gone in when I wanted to, but I was already obligated on calls when they called me, and I couldn't get off. Normally, I could have rode those calls and then flew right in and rode her if it would have been normal. So this COVID thing, for me, I travel quite a bit, as you know, to ride a lot of my horses, and so it's really, really kind of took a pretty big blow to my business. That's why you don't see me with much going into the Breeders' Cup now. I literally
retired. McKinsey's retired.
Gamine, I could have rode Gamine, couldn't go in because of the protocols in New York. They wouldn't let me in. There's been several others, that I couldn't go in. I couldn't go in to ride even Swiss Skydiver in Alabama because of that. So there's been several ones that it's really cost me this COVID thing. So I can't wait to hopefully this thing is over quick.
Well, I'm hoping that somehow, some way, a live big mount comes up for you, more than one, and that you get booked. And if you get booked, all I ask is that I get a small cut, because I'm trying to book your action now, everybody.
Thank you.
I'm serious. I mean, to me, it's absolutely absurd that we wouldn't see Big Money Mike, the most winningest jockey in Breeders' Cup history, not have a major mount in the Breeders' Cup. It's crazy to me. It's absolutely insane, and I think this needs to be rectified. We still have time in between to see if we can get something rolling. But I mean, I just to pick your brain in case it doesn't go that way and we don't get to see you. At least let me get your insight. Is there a 2-year-old that has stood up most for you in terms of the Future Starts Friday program? And then speaking of the Super Saturday program, if you, having been on Swiss Skydiver and knowing what she's like, if you had a say, would you put her in the Classic or would you put her in the distaff?
I would probably run her in the distaff. I think she's proven she's beat the boys. She was run an amazing race to win the Preakness. So she's got nothing to prove there. Go back in and finish the rest of the year off and run against a great mare like Monomoy Girl. And if you're fortunate enough to beat her, man, I mean, you've put yourself at a good chance of even Horse of the Year honors, not just filly, or mare. She would have a big shot at that if she can pull the Breeders' Cup off on top of all the other wonderful things that she's won. It would give her a huge fight, and I think a big advantage on Horse of the Year. So I would go for distaff. And again, that's not to say that she shouldn't run against the boys, but not only now, this time it's not going to be just the boys, it'll be the older boys as well. So the competition does get steeper. And
who do you think is the biggest threat in that race, in the Classic? Who, if she did go Classic, who do you think is the biggest threat in that race?
Oh, there's several that could jump up and win the Classic. I still think Authentic has a big shot at coming back. I think Maximum Security is going to come back and run a really big race.
What did you make of that last start?
Yeah, it wasn't his best race by no means, but look, he probably ran a C race and he still runs second. He still runs second. He doesn't get beat bad. And I know Bob, he's going to have him 100% for the Breeders' Cup. But that was just getting to that race. You certainly didn't want him to run his best race then. You wanted him to run at Breeders' Cup time, and he should be peaking at that time. If you'll even see his works are starting to get even better. His last work was really good. Again, he not that he's going to be overlooked by no means, but a lot of people might forget about him just a little bit because he got beat last time. But believe me, I wouldn't leave him out of my picks. He's going to be tough to beat, that horse.
And he's put together a tremendous campaign. That's a horse Derby winner. Sorry, somebody says that they hear clicking, and I don't know if it's my.
No, it's probably my dog's friend came upstairs.
It might be my microphone. I got a hardwood
floors and little French bulldog is running on the hardwood floors. It's making that clicking noise.
I hear myself though. No, it's not the dogs. I think it's something with this microphone. And if I could change it, I would. I'm sorry.
yeah.
We're close here anyway. So again, if anybody out there has got a major horse and you still have not decided the mount, hello. Wait, I can't point right. There we go. Hello.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And before I let you go, because this has been absolutely amazing, I've had so much fun.
I have as well. Thank you.
Just a couple of questions. I'm going to let you roll it since my mic might be clicking. Your favorite horse in training that you have nothing to do with. Your favorite horse of all time that you didn't ride. And then I want you to give people with Halloween coming up and being a jockey who understands fitness, how do we get from Halloween and eating all the candy to Breeders' Cup fit?
Oh, well, okay. The very first, the horse that I haven't ridden that I would have loved to have ridden in my career would I actually, a horse called Easy Goer.
Yes.
Man, I'm a big Easy Goer fan. I've always have been, always will be. That horse, again, getting the opportunity to be around Pat when he was riding him, and just the way he would light up when he'd speak about that horse, and then getting the chance to watch him. I used to drive Pat to the airport and pick him up every time he'd ride that horse, just so I could hear what he had to say about him. So I was a big fan of Easy Goer. So that'd be the horse that would have been cool to ride one time. As far as the Halloween and what you're gonna eat, you just always got to remember that the next day is the day that you're gonna have to get it off. So if you want to eat a little more, eat a little more. You're just gonna have to run a little farther, or work out a little harder. And then that's really, if you'll do that, if you'll learn to burn more than you're taking in, then you'll always be okay.
How do you get through the holidays as a jockey? I'm just curious. I always feel bad for you guys. You can't hit the stuff in the next
I love food and I love to eat. I'm not a big eater anyway. Naturally, I love to have my Thanksgiving Day, turkey and a little bit of everything that goes with it. But I work out so much before and after that I don't really worry about calories all that much, because I'm gonna burn most of them the next day.
Well, I saw that video that Breeders put up of you going complete beach mode. So.
Well, I try. As you get older, you don't get to go as hard, but I still go pretty good. And I tell you what, I put a lot of miles in, and I have my personal trainer that I work out with. And again, I started at a very early age, so it's really paying off now in my later years. I stay really fit now.
Well, one more thing then. I will ask you this. We're not talking retirement anytime soon. I mean, you're still riding at the top level, the elite level. When that day eventually does come, do you see yourself in a position where you would like to do some sort of commentating like Jerry Bailey or Gary Stevens does?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be the thing that I'd like to be the easiest thing to get into right away. Where as far as I didn't have to invest a whole lot of money or anything else to get into as far as racing is concerned. Otherwise, if I want to do the racing, and of course I'd start spending everything that I saved to retire with. So I wouldn't want to do that. I would certainly try it and see if I was any good at it and see if I enjoyed it. And if it was something that I enjoyed, I have a whole lot better chance of getting good at it, because I would want to practice and do it every day. And I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so I would work hard at it if I enjoyed it. So I would like to try it to see if I enjoyed it. I certainly want to do something in the industry, because I'm going to retire probably at a pretty young age. I would like to think, but I'd like to ride another few more years. I'm strong enough, I'm fit enough, I'm riding every bit as good as I've ever have. And as long as I'm getting the opportunities to ride a few good horses, that's all I ask for.
Well, I think you're a rock star at everything you do. I think to me, it's a no-brainer to have you, when the time comes, join the ranks as a commentator. Your insight is invaluable, and you have the credentials, obviously, to be a rock star in that position.
Well, yeah, but along with that, I thank you first of all and foremost. But along with that comes the talent, the ability to do it. It's not as easy as you think, man. You stare into a camera all of a sudden, man. My tongue becomes too big for my mouth, and I don't,
Oh,
I don't know where to look, and I don't know how to. I all of a sudden forget about what I'm supposed to know because I've done it my whole life as far as racing goes. But it's different, you know. It certainly is, and it's something that you have to just be good at. You got to have a knack for it, like anything else, to start with, and then I have to enjoy it, because if I don't enjoy it, I'm not going to want to put everything I have into it. So if I enjoy it, then I'm going to try hard at it. But that's something that I'd like to start out trying.
well, you've heard it a million times before, I'm sure, but you have $1 million smile. So uh,
Thank you.
if all else fails, just look at the camera and you just smile, and
I'm
then
trying.
you gather yourself, and then you can continue.
That's all I got left is a smile. I ain't got nothing left, but I'm hanging in there on that part.
Oh my gosh, no, you have such a fandom behind you, and so many great experiences yet to experience going forward at, again, elite level. As a human being, as a horseman, as an ambassador for this sport, we cannot credit you enough. I mean, on and off what you do as a jockey, again, as a human being, and working for the Jockeys Guild, it is remarkable. And you're just, again, such a great human being. Every time I've interacted with you, I'm always left impressed. I got to meet your beautiful wife, Cynthia, a couple years ago, before she was your wife. And, you know, I just,
You guys have a little bit in common, you know, with the Middle Eastern background.
That's
you know?
right.
Yeah. So
We still need to see another reason you need to come out here. For Breeders' Cup. That's why we need to get you. Oh, we lost you, but maybe you'll come back. I was just going to say he needs to come out here, and then we can all hang out.
I'd love that. I absolutely would, man. Hopefully we'll get that chance to do it.
Share a nice plate of hummus.
There you go. There you go. Sounds like a plan.
Well, Mike, this has been so much fun for me. This is an absolute honor. I want to thank you so much for all the time and for all the great memories that you can share with you taking us along the ride.
Well, thank you for showing. I mean, like I said, you made my day. I hadn't got to see a lot of those wonderful races, and it's brought back some great memories. So thank you, and I appreciate it. It was nice talking to you. Hopefully we'll see again soon.
Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this. Mike Smith, Hall of Famer, right here on the Future Stars Friday forecast, talking about so much more than just 2-year-olds, talking about some stars of the past, looking forward to this event as well. And hopefully, like I said, he's not currently interested in riding in it. Let's change that, okay, everybody? Let's get.
You'd make for a good agent. You'd be a really good agent.
Oh my gosh, believe me, I would be ravenous. It would happen. I hope everybody enjoyed this. And by King Tide, I'll say bye to you once I hit end of this broadcast. Again, everybody, this is the Future Stars Friday forecast on this 2-year-old Tuesday. But again, so much more than that. Hall of Famer Mike Smith. Have a great day.